Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the opportunity to follow the Price is Right and my friends from Ohio, who we obviously disagree on this issue, but consider ourselves friends and colleagues, and appreciate their levity here tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about the substance of this health care bill that is now coming very, very close to being passed. But before we do, I just want to clarify the record a bit, because throughout the course of the day today, many people have been commenting on procedure and self-executing rules, and I just want to share with the House and put into the record, the American people to be able to reference what the history of these self-executing rules have been. In the 104th and 105th Congress, under Speaker Newt Gingrich, Republicans used 90 self-executing rules. In the 106th, 7th, and 8th Congresses, under Speaker Denny Hastert, Republicans used 112 self-executing rules. The 109th Congress, under Speaker Hastert, Republicans used self-executing rules more than 35 times. This is a common procedure used here in the House. It has been proven under the Gingrich-Hastert regime before the Democrats took over. And also would like to just show and read and ask unanimous consent to submit this for the record.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Congressional scholar Norm Ornstein of American Enterprise Institute, who's really the guru here for how Congress operates, wrote this in his March 16, 2010 column, quote, "I can't recall a level of feigned indignation nearly as great as what we are seeing now from congressional Republicans and their acolytes at the Wall Street Journal and on blogs, talk radio, and cable news. It reached a ridiculous level of misinformation and disinformation over the use of reconciliation, and now threatens to top that level over the projected use of a self-executing rule by House Speaker Pelosi. In the last Congress that the Republicans controlled from 05 to 06, Rules Committee Chairman David Dreyer used the self-executing rule more than 35 times and was no stranger to the concept of demon pass. That strategy was defended by House Republicans in court and upheld. Is there no shame anymore? Question mark. So let's set this aside. And obviously, as I'm going to be joined here by my friend from Ohio, my other friend from California, if the substance of the bill is going to benefit the other side, I wouldn't talk about the substance of the bill either, Mr. Speaker. I would stay focused on smoke and mirrors and bells and whistles and distractions that would move the debate off of the centerpiece, off the meat and potatoes, which is this. Our government has a moral mission. And that moral mission is for this government, as designed by the framers of the United States Constitution, has a moral mission to protect its citizens from terrorists, from foreign powers, if they are aggressive. This government has a moral mission to protect its citizens with issues of crime, workplace safety, should unruly corporations behave in a manner that would hurt individual citizens in the United States of America. And the documents that found this country, that created this country, give the United States Congress that moral mission to act on behalf of individual citizens. So the health care reform proposal that we are talking about today is an attempt by the Congress of the United States, the elected representatives of the American people, should step in because they are being hurt by the current health care system. They are being hurt by the practices of the health care industry, of the insurance industry. And what is going to happen this weekend as we pass health care reform something that this country's been trying to do for 100 years, what will happen is the government will come in and not run health care. This isn't about the insurance company running health care, the government running health care. This is about the government stepping in and saying to the insurance industry, you are no longer allowed to kick people off of their policies just because they got sick. The insurance industry is no longer allowed to tell kids and their parents that they are denied insurance coverage because they have a pre-existing condition. The insurance industry will no longer be able to tell adults that they can no longer get health insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. That's what this bill does. It protects the American people. This bill will step in and say to an American family who may be dealing with a catastrophic issue, health care issue for their family, this bill is going to step in and say to the insurance company, back off. You are no longer allowed to say to a family who's going through a health care crisis, sorry, we're out of money, you hit your lifetime limit, you're on your own. This is going to come in and say, on behalf of the American people, if you are 26 years old or younger, you will be able to stay on your parents' insurance so that young people will have an opportunity to do that. This is going to say to small business people, because the government also has a moral mission, not only to protect from unsavory, underhanded business practices, but the government also has a moral mission to empower people in the United States of America. And what this bill does through a series of tax incentives and an exchange will provide the greatest tax cut for health care purposes in decades in the United States of America. If you are a small business in the United States of America, you will receive up to a 50% tax credit in order to provide health care to your workers, as well as go into the exchange and be able to negotiate with other small businesses and people around the country to drive down health care costs. That is going to significantly reduce costs for small business people in the United States of America. And as we slowly begin to move out of the economic collapse that our friends on the other side and President Bush handed the American people, this reform will bring some stability to the market. This reform will allow small business people to take those savings and reinvest them back into their company, in the machinery, in the capital, in the technology, in the wages for their workers. And you can talk to any small business person, and I was just on the phone with one today, had an increase of 40% in their health care. And he said, you know what, I negotiated with the drug company, I negotiated it down to a 30% increase. This is a person who had 30 employees just a few years ago, and now is down to just a handful, 6 or 7 employees. But if you reduce the health care costs for this business, and many and thousands across the country, they will have more money to reinvest back into their company. You will talk to many union members when they go in and negotiate union contracts with businesses. They don't get a wage increase because the business person says to the union, you know, I got $5 an hour. Here it is. You use it any way you want, but this is all I got. And the unions, as they negotiate those contracts, have to put that money in the health care. So wages have been stagnant now for decades. And this bill will allow those small businesses and big businesses to reinvest back into their companies and help us as we get out of the economic morass, as things start to open up, as we see they are now, will accelerate that and will allow us to have some sustained long-term growth. Before I yield to any of our friends here, we got Mr. Bocherry's here from Ohio. I want to make one final point. This bill will extend the life of the Medicare program. That's why AARP has endorsed this program. And our friends on the other side, I love it. They say, well, the seniors are against it, but AARP endorses it. The docs are against it, but the American Medical Association has endorsed the bill. This is a pro-abortion bill, but yet 60,000 Catholic nuns and 600 Catholic hospitals and 1,400 Catholic nursing homes have endorsed this bill. The National Catholic Reporter endorsed this bill. They wouldn't endorse a bill that is pro-abortion, giving federal money for abortions. But this is another distraction because our friends on the other side certainly don't want to compete with tax credits for small businesses. Certainly don't want to say, get rid of the pre-existing conditions. And we want to keep that in there. They don't want to have that campaign. They don't want to have that debate, and I don't blame them. But the facts of the matter are this. This bill is good for the American people. It probably should have happened 30 or 40 years ago. But for seniors, it extends the life of Medicare. It invests into the Medicare Part D program so that if you have the prescription drug coverage from Medicare Part D, you'll get a $250 stipend this year. And next year, because of the negotiations, you'll say average Medicare Part D recipient will save $700 on their prescription drugs that they're getting from Medicare Part D. We will eventually close the donut hole. No senior will ever have to pay for preventative coverage again. No citizen will ever have to pay for preventative coverage again. So this, through the savings, extends the life of the Medicare program, reduces costs, makes insurance affordable for everyone in our country. And we are moving, in the next day or so, Mr. Bocheri, we are moving in the direction of a historic vote. And I just want to say to you, my friend, that I appreciate what you have done. Today came out and said that you are voting yes on this bill after a lot of consideration, a lot of thought, because you feel it is the best thing for the American people. But I want to say thank you for standing up for your constituents. We represent very similar districts, and I believe that, history will vindicate you and your vote. This is a bill that, we think, how does it affect the country? And it only makes good common sense that if we're reducing health care costs over time, that is going to reduce the deficit, because the government is so intertwined with Medicare and Medicaid and veterans benefits and everything else, that taking the health care system and putting in these fixes and including everybody in the system so that they don't run up health care costs, and fixing the waste in Medicare and those kind of things, at the end of the day will be very, very beneficial for the deficit. I've got a district in Northeast Ohio, and very specifically, Mr. Speaker, I just want to state what this particular bill is going to do for those people in Ohio who have been for 30 years in a recession for the most part, lost the steel industry, lost the rubber industry, lost a lot of the manufacturing in the United States, and have been hurt very, very badly. I wish that this was in place 30 or 40 years ago and would have saved a lot of people from a lot of suffering over time. This bill alone will improve coverage for 355,000 citizens in the 17th Congressional District. This particular bill is going to give tax credits and other assistance up to 180,000 people. A lot of people in our district who have a family of four, make about $50,000 a year. That family, under this bill, will get a $5,800 tax cut for them to be able to afford health insurance. Last year alone, in the 17th Congressional District, we had 1,700 families, neighbors of mine, this is all throughout the country, who went bankrupt because of the health care system. Because of health care issues, they went bankrupt, and many of those people had health insurance, actually had health insurance, and still went bankrupt. How many kids, how many families, how many parents had to file for bankruptcy in this country last year because of the current health care system that we have here? 53,000 young adults in the 17th Congressional District are going to be able to stay on their parents' health insurance because we extend it up to 26 years old. This will guarantee, this bill will guarantee 9,300 people in the 17th Congressional District will no longer be able to be denied because of a pre-existing health insurance because of a pre-existing condition. This is where the rubber meets the road. And I mentioned about the $250 that the Medicare Part D recipients will get this year, a $700 savings in Medicare Part D next year, to save $3,000 by 2020. So this is a bill that has great significance. We will have enough money in this bill, just for my congressional district, for 4 new community health clinics. We already have a few sprinkled around, but 4 new community health clinics so that people can go and get the kind of preventative care that we are focused on in this bill. Hospitals will save $11 million. This bill is a good bill. Is it a perfect bill? Not even close. Nothing is perfect. We're all imperfect here. So why would we create something that is perfect? But we have extended it. Don't implement everything over. We implement things over time, so we have an opportunity to tweak things. And as the gentleman from New Jersey said, this reduces the deficit by $1.2 trillion over the next couple of decades. That's what this is all about for our kids and our grandkids, and to have the kind of future that we want. So I think it's an important piece of legislation. I'm excited about it. And if I can say lastly, because the Ohio State Buckeyes basketball game is coming on, and we've got to do our part, Mr. Boccieri and I, to make sure that we root them in as much as we're rooting in for the health care bill this weekend. But I want to say this, and I don't mean to be glib, and I don't mean to be arrogant, but I do want to be honest. I look forward to the campaign in November. I look forward to going out and talking to the constituents in my district and around the state of Ohio about what's in this bill. And I very much look forward to the Republican Party running on a platform of repealing this bill, repealing the ban on pre-existing conditions for children, repealing the ban for pre-existing conditions on adults, repealing the tax credits for small businesses, repealing the tax credits for someone in Niles, Ohio, who makes $50,000 a year and will get $5,800. I want to have that debate. I want to have the debate where the Republicans come up and they say we need to repeal that, and we need to make sure that our seniors, we continue to keep the donut hole wide open. We don't want to close it. I look forward to that debate. Look forward to the debate about saying that we should keep the lifetime caps in and keep the status quo. So it is going to be an exciting time in our country. And as I heard one of my colleagues says, we're debating real issues here. And we have an opportunity to talk about and how it's going to benefit the American people. And I would then yield back the balance of our time.